1984, a novel by George Orwell. Every so often there is a book that speaks so profoundly to the human condition that its impact echoes across generations. George Orwell's 1984, published in 1949, is one such book. Set in a dystopian future, it paints a chilling picture of a society under the thumb of a totalitarian regime. A society where privacy is non-existent and every move is monitored. Where history is rewritten to suit the whims of the ruler and truth is a mere casualty in the game of power. In today's world, we live in the era of big data, facial recognition technology, AI-powered surveillance, and social credit systems. We are constantly connected, constantly accessible. And while some might argue that these advancements are for our own good, a tool to fight crime or maintain order, others see the specter of Orwell's vision looming on the horizon. They hear the chilling echoes of Orwell in the modern world. So what exactly are these echoes? What aspects of our modern world resemble Orwell's fictional Oceania? That is what we will explore in this episode: thought control and the manipulation of language. In Oceania, the ruling party's control extended to every facet of life, including language. Through a process called Newspeak, the party aimed to limit the vocabulary and grammar of the English language, making it impossible to express thoughts that could be construed as rebellious. Does this sound familiar? In an age when social media algorithms tailor our news feeds, when search engines influence what we see and say, and when cancel culture can make or break reputations with a few clicks of a button, are we not all subject to a form of linguistic conditioning? Noam Chomsky, the renowned linguist and political activist, has long warned about the dangers of controlled language. He argues that language is not just a tool for communication, but a shaper of thought. If we are to think differently, we must first change the way we use language. This is a sentiment echoed by Edward Snowden, the former National Security Agency contractor who leaked classified information about the agency's mass surveillance programs. Snowden, who has been charged with espionage and is living in exile in Russia, has spoken out against the chilling effects of government overreach. Another figure who has sounded the alarm on the manipulation of language is Sir Martin Gilbert, the official biographer of Winston Churchill. He has argued that the deliberate dumbing down of language is a dangerous development that can lead to the suppression of dissent and the erosion of civil liberties. Surveillance and the erosion of privacy. Oceania was under constant surveillance. Telescreens monitored citizens, recording their activities and even their conversations. The police force, known as the Thought Police, were ever vigilant, ready to arrest anyone displaying unorthodox behavior or opinions. Today we live in an age of ubiquitous surveillance. From CCTV cameras on street corners to hidden cameras in public spaces, our every move is tracked and recorded. The use of facial recognition technology to identify and monitor individuals without their knowledge is becoming increasingly common. Even our online activities are subject to constant monitoring. Government agencies and private companies alike have the ability to track our internet usage, monitor our social media activity, and access our personal information with relative ease. The question is, where does this leave our right to privacy? Is the erosion of privacy an inevitable consequence of living in a technologically advanced society, or can we find ways to protect our right to privacy in the digital age? Privacy International, an organization that campaigns for the right to privacy, argues that the erosion of privacy is a slippery slope that can lead to the abuse of power and the suppression of dissent. The organization's director, Eric King, has said that the right to privacy is fundamental to our ability to live freely and make our own decisions. Without privacy, we are vulnerable to the whims of those who seek to control us. The dark side of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is transforming our world in countless ways, from self-driving cars to virtual assistants. But what happens when machines take on tasks that were once the sole domain of humans? In Oceania, the Proles, the working-class citizens, were kept under control through a combination of surveillance and propaganda. But there was also a more sinister force at play, the machines themselves. The party used robots and other forms of technology to enforce their will, often without any human intervention. Today, we are seeing similar trends. Automation and AI are replacing jobs that were once done by humans, leading to widespread unemployment. And as machines become more sophisticated, they are being used for surveillance and enforcement purposes. The rise of social credit systems, which use AI to monitor and score citizens' behavior, is a particularly troubling development. These systems have been criticized for their potential to create a surveillance state and for their use of discriminatory algorithms. Experts such as Shoshana Zuboff, the author of The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, have warned about the dangers of AI and surveillance capitalism, where personal data is harvested and sold to the highest bidder. Zuboff argues that this data-driven economy is a form of exploitation and that we need to take steps to protect ourselves from its harmful effects. Ministry of Truth and the Distortion of History. In Orwell's novel, the Ministry of Truth was responsible for manipulating historical records to fit the party's narrative. This was done through the alteration of documents, the rewriting of textbooks, and the suppression of dissenting voices. Today, we are seeing similar attempts to control the narrative around important historical events. The rise of fake news and the proliferation of conspiracy theories have made it difficult to distinguish fact from fiction. And when people are no longer able to agree on what is true, it becomes easier to manipulate them. For example, the recent controversy surrounding the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic is a case in point. Some believe that the virus was deliberately released from a laboratory, while others claim that it occurred naturally. Without access to unfiltered information, it is difficult to know what to believe, and this uncertainty can be exploited by those with malicious intent. As historian Richard J. Evans has pointed out, the deliberate distortion of historical facts can have dangerous consequences. When people are no longer able to learn from the past, they are more likely to repeat its mistakes. The Proles, a warning from the past. In Orwell's novel, the Proles, the working-class citizens of Oceania, were kept under control through a combination of surveillance and propaganda. They were denied the right to education, free speech and assembly, and their living conditions were deliberately kept miserable. The Proles were seen as a threat to the party's power, and so they were kept weak and divided. Does this sound familiar? In today's world, there is a growing divide between the rich and the poor, and the gap is only widening. The plight of the homeless and the working poor is a stark reminder of the inequality that exists in our society. And while we may not live in a world of extreme poverty like that depicted in Orwell's novel, there are still millions of people who are struggling to survive. As the writer and activist Slavoj Žižek has pointed out, the growing inequality in our society is a form of exploitation. The wealthy elite are taking advantage of the fact that the working class is weak and divided, and they are using this power to further enrich themselves. If we don't take action to address the root causes of inequality, we may be creating the very conditions that Orwell warned us about. A call to action. Remembering Orwell in the 21st century. So what can we do to prevent Orwell's warning from becoming a reality? The first step is to remember that Orwell's work was not just a prediction of the future, but a critique of the present. Orwell was writing about the dangers of totalitarianism, the abuse of power, and the manipulation of language and truth. These are issues that are just as relevant today as they were in his time. The second step is to be aware of the subtle ways in which power can be abused. Totalitarianism is not just about obvious displays of force. It can also manifest itself in more subtle ways, such as through the manipulation of language or the control of information. We need to be vigilant against all forms of abuse of power, no matter how subtle they may seem. Finally, we must remember that Orwell's work was also a call to action. He was not just a passive observer of the world around him. He was an active participant who believed in the power of the human spirit to overcome even the most oppressive regimes. We can honor his legacy by being active citizens who stand up for what they believe in, who speak out against injustice, and who fight for a better future for all of us. In conclusion, the parallels between Orwell's fictional world and our own are both chilling and undeniable. But rather than being paralyzed by fear, we can choose to be inspired by Orwell's vision of a better world. Let his work be a reminder of the importance of fighting for freedom, justice, and equality. Let it be a call to action for us all to stand up against oppression and to create a world that is truly free. Do you hear the chilling echoes of Orwell in the modern world? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others. Don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Thanks for watching.